Hello, YouTube! I am Pinstar, and this is Oxygen Not Included 1.0 Strategy and Tactics Episode 0. So, a while ago, while Oxygen Not Included was in beta, I did a strategy and tactics series of it, and you guys seemed to like it pretty well. When I concluded the series, everyone was saying, hey, when are you going to come back to this game? When are you going to do it again? And I said, when Oxygen Not Included hits 1.0, because they kept changing and adding things to it. I couldn't keep relearning the game every single time. Well, 1.0 is upon us, and so am I. So let us get started, and we were going to get started in much the same way that we started off our last series, with an episode 0. Now, what is the point of an episode 0? Well, it's basically getting our starting conditions set. Getting our initial dupes picked, and also, and this is new to 1.0 here, choosing our asteroid. So, let us begin. We are going to be going on survival, that no sweat would kind of defeat the purpose. Now, I held a poll on my Patreon, where all of my patrons of any level were able to vote on which asteroid we started on. Each of the different asteroid archetypes have different challenges and presets to them. Some are good with, some give you logistical problems, some give you temperature problems, some give you food or mineral problems, all kinds of different things. The asteroid picked by my patrons would be the Badlands. So I've been practicing the Badlands. A barren location with overabundance of mineral resources. So basically the idea with the Badlands is it's not immediately hostile, but there are several key biomes missing from it. There are some things that simply will not be appearing on the Badlands, and therefore we have to make do without them. Now, as far as our coordinates, and of course the game seed so that you guys can play at home, I was going to go with my de facto ancient seed, but they only allow you to put in numbers. But then I noticed something. If we put in the World Gen seed of 551455 and have everything else set, same stock standard default here, we get ourselves a nice little leet speak phrase out of the coordinates. If the bad A is just sort of tied into the Badlands, but if you read this like leet speak, it is badass Lasso. So that, my friends, is going to be our game seed here, the badass Lasso. Now, it has generated a couple of things here, large boulders and large glaciers. Large boulders, I'd say is largely a negative thing. They're more of a logistical pain in the butt. But not insurmountable. Large glaciers, on the other hand, I would call that a good thing, because it is little pockets of cooling in your asteroid and also free water. So yeah, one bad thing, one good thing. I'd say this is a good thing. Survival chance marginal. This is one of the harder worlds. So let's dive right in. Okay, so once again, now for the name of the colony, I think we're going to name the colony after the seed. The badass Lasso. I really hope this name doesn't get me demonetized for this. Anyway, so now we need to pick our dupes. So the idea here is, well, a couple of different things have changed. First off, the traits, the skill point bonuses you get are now directly tied to their interests. Further, you now have a sort of a set dichotomy. You have a trichotomy, if you will. You can have a dupe that has 3 different interests, but only gets 1 skill point in each. Or you can have a dupe with 2 different interests, and they get 3 skill points in each. Or you could have a dupe that has only one interest, but they start the game with a 7 skill in it. Not too shabby. So, a couple of different ways we can sort of tackle this. This is going to be the only time that we have a chance to rather aggressively re-roll our dupes until we get exactly what we want, so I would highly advise doing that. Now, one other merciful thing that they've done here is it allows you to force a regeneration of a dupe to have a specific skill. At least one of their skills will be whatever the one you pick here. Everything else still being random. So that kind of helps narrow things down a little bit. So let's get to picking here. First off, before we re-roll anybody here, let's just see if anybody here is just naturally what we want. That is not. I did have one practice game where one of the dupes that just was initially generated was absolutely perfect. But this is not the case here. So our first person that we're going to be picking here, and this is going to be going against a little type here, but I think it's a powerful choice if you code it correctly, and that is a supplier. You might not think suppliers that important for the very start of the game, but I'll show you once we get into the series proper why having a supplier on hand is very useful and very important for both the short and the long term. Now, what we're looking for to pair with supplying is building. So I'm going to reroll till we have a supplier builder with some decent traits. I'll see you on the flip side. Okay, perfect. Oh, this is an absolutely perfect dupe right here for our supplier. So we've got supplying, building. Now for our traits, we've got Twinkle Toes, one of the best, secondary positive traits here to have, because this dupe is going to be running around doing things anyway, and the Twinkle Toes will allow them to run around all the more faster. As for their downside, gastrophobia, we were going to have them doing cooking errands anyway. So the fact that they can't do them is of zero consequence. So our first dupe, we are going to be doing name in-game patrons here. So if you want one of the dupes named after you, check out my Patreon page below. But today we are going to be tapping into some of my established ones. Larissa is our first dupe. Right then. So I just noticed the flavor text doesn't change with the rename. Oh well. Right then. So our next dupe, what the skill we're looking for is farmer. Wow, this actually rolled into the exact skills that I wanted. Although the traits could be a little bit better. I'm gonna re-roll till we get a better trait. I mean, Iron Guts. If you're doing things right, you aren't going to have them facing food poisoning anyway. Let's re-roll. So that took a while, but we finally got a good person to have here. So we have a farmer, we have a researcher, and they've got the quick learner, which increases their science even further. So they actually are going to be starting out with a +6 in science. Excellent. Now, the noodle arms is it's a little bit more painful of a trait, but I think since we have a dedicated supplier, we're going to make sure this doesn't become a problem with the whole lack of carrying capacity here. So yeah, the whole idea behind the farmer researcher, sort of the brainiac farmer here, is that the early game we are going to be wanting to get our farm on pretty quickly, and the researching, this is actually going to be our secondary researcher, excuse me, with our primary researcher being our third dupe. But the other thing to note is that sort of given the name of the Badass Lasso, we need to get our farmers skilled up quickly. And the secondary effect of having the science skill is that all of your other skills level up quickly. So we're actually more interested in a highly skilled farmer, but we're thinking of a long-term highly skilled farmer. So rather than starting out with just a farming only specialist, it's better to have them splashed into researcher. Not to mention they can do some of the side research for us at a pretty decent clip too. As for our name here, let's get Hiko. Welcome to the team, Hiko. Alright, so our third and final dupe, as I mentioned before, will be a dedicated researcher. So this is the one where we're actually looking for researching as their only skill. We want that to start out as high as possible. Alright, I'll see you guys on the flip side. Okay, so we've got our third person, research only, and we've got the buff trait. Increased strength. So this is actually a nice little trichotomy here of some of my three favorite traits, positive traits that is, for dupes. See, the way you think of skills in this game is there are what I call active skills and passive skills. The game doesn't actually differentiate these as such, but I make the distinction myself. So when it comes to active skills, these are skills where your dupe is taking a specific action. So, for example, building is an active skill because they are actively constructing something. Farming is an active skill because when you're performing the act of harvesting plants, you're tapping into that specific skill. Now, passive skills are skills that are used sort of in conjunction to that. So, for example, Twinkle Toes, athletics. While athletics does not increase the speed at which we build things or bring them to them, it is nonetheless helpful in getting from point A to point B faster. So it helps our constructor here do their job faster while not having to specialize in it. Same thing with buff here, with strength. Having the ability to just be able to not so much with strength for our researcher, but just being able to supply things a little bit more passively. You can do that as a passive thing without having to focus on it, and therefore we can save our specialization safely for research, but the buff will still be useful. Now, science is an interesting one because science is both an active and a passive. See, science here, science is useful for both the researching active skill, but it also passively helps you by increasing the speed at which you learn other skills by a certain percentage. So science is probably one of the most useful skills to have in the game, which is why we have 2 researcher dupes in our starting lineup of 3. As for our name here, we cannot forget our third and certainly not final patron here, and that is going to be Thibaut. All right, Thibaut. So, Larissa, Hiko, Thibaut, ready for action. So let us embark on our journey to the Badass Lasso. So if you guys like this episode and you want to see more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Your feedback's always welcome. So until next time, this has been Pinstar, signing out.